Hello, hello. Welcome back yet again, hopefully again, or maybe this is your first, who knows? But either way, you are here at the Accelerate Life podcast with me, your host, Mallory Marks, and it is a solo episode today. As you can see by the title, it is one of our fun, fast fit facts episodes. We're just going to dive right into a topic and I'm going to give you just the nitty gritty of it. No bullshit, just the science, just the cold hard facts, simplify some of this bullshit about nutrition and fitness. I'm feeling passionate about it today. Can you tell? But yeah, these episodes, these FFF Fast Fit Facts episodes are really just designed to dive into a specific topic and be very straightforward about it, a topic within health and fitness. Cause I think there's just so much out there that can be very confusing, very overwhelming, very hard for people to understand. It's hard to weed through what's right, what's wrong, what do I need to know, what do I not, et cetera, et cetera. So I really, with these episodes, try to just bring you what you need to know to be successful. So if you enjoyed this episode, there are lots of other Fast Fit Fact episodes that I have done in the past. Scroll back, check them out. But without further ado, we're going to jump into today's topic, which is all about body recomposition. And this is a term that you've likely heard of. If not, you're going to learn what it is and why you might want to focus on it and how to do that. But I think body recomposition has been a trendy term, like all over social media, Instagram, TikTok, etc. When it comes to aesthetic goals and health and fitness goals. And it can be, again, one of those things that gets really overused and, well, I don't even want to say overused, but just continuously used. And you don't really truly ever get educated on like what it actually is and yeah, what to do if you want that, etc. So we're going to dive into that today, what it is, how to do it. So let's start with, what does body recomp even mean? Okay. One thing I want to make clear is it's not just about losing weight. It could include losing weight. Part of recomping your body could mean that the scale goes down, that we see some weight loss, but it's not just about losing weight. It's about recomping the composition that you already have. It's about kind of recomping, like maybe your current weight or just recomping your body as a whole. Okay. So it is exactly what it sounds like, changing the composition or the makeup of your current body breakdown. So, essentially it's really focusing on the makeup of muscle and body fat. So changing the composition of those two things. Maybe right now your body is a lot more body fat than it is muscle. That would mean you have a higher body fat percentage. Maybe you're at a healthy weight, but again, our muscle mass ratio to that body fat percentage is not where we would like it to be. And therefore, we don't look as lean, toned, defined. We kind of maybe more identify with that quote unquote skinny fat. Recomping your body would mean not necessarily like gaining or losing much weight on the scale, but losing body fat, building lean muscle. Again, the scale might not really change then because that could be a net zero gain, but the entire composition and makeup has shifted to a little bit more muscle and a little bit less body fat. So that's essentially what body recomposition means. Now, the reason I really, really wanted to make this episode and why this is such an important episode is because that fact right there, or that like concept right there, a lot of people don't understand. And that's kind of the missing key piece to, I think, so many people being successful with their health and fitness journey and actually reaching the goals they want. Because many people, especially women, think that to reach their goal physique, they just need to lose weight. I think it's really common with diet culture and a lot of the ways, especially again, us women have grown up to think that if you want to change your body at all, you must have a goal to see the scale go down. Like that must be, it's correlated, right? If I want to change my body, the scale must go down. And that is inherently wrong. It could be true, obviously, in some instances, but not all the time. In reality, a lot of times the body that somebody is envisioning them like having, their goal body, their goal physique, is more so just having lean muscle. And it may not really be a scale change per se. Because a lot of women desire to have, like, if you asked almost any woman, what's your goal? They're going to say, I just want to be lean and toned, right? Lean and toned, lean and toned. Well, what does that mean? Lean and toned means having enough muscle to then being lean enough to see that definition. That's where that tone comes from, is like you see the definition, right? So it requires having muscle. And again, muscle is weight. If you're going to build muscle in your body, that is going to add weight to your body. Now, of course, you could simultaneously lose body fat. You could maybe lose more body fat than the muscle you gain, and then the scale could go down. There's a lot of different scenarios that can happen, right? But if we're constantly focusing on weight loss over muscle mass gain, this is where a lot of women get stuck and are like, I don't understand why I'm not actually seeing the results that I thought I would because they're just doing a lot of cardio, they're under eating, they're doing all these methods that get you to get the scale to go down, but that might not align with what you're thinking in your head. A common conversation I have with women is they'll tell me what their goal weight is, or they'll tell me their goal is to lose weight and what their goal weight is. And I'm like, well, why did you pick that number? And they're like, I don't know. I think that's just where I imagine I'll be happy. And then I'm like, well, what are you imagining at that weight? And they describe the body. And I'm like, so it's more about the body composition than the weight. Is that correct? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess I don't really care what the scale says. And you really have to understand that and believe that. Okay. Because again, with body composition, body recomposition, it might mean the scale could go down. It might not mean the scale go down. It might mean the scale could go up. I'll tell you that most likely the scale is going to probably stay the same if we're really just focusing on like, especially if you're somebody who is already like in a relatively healthy BMI range and you're not happy with where you want to be, it is likely because your body fat percentage is just too high and we just need to like shift that composition. So, whew, I feel like I just rambled a lot there, but hopefully that kind of got it very cut and clear of like what body recomp means and why we need to learn and understand it, and shift a little bit away from just like weight loss and maybe your goal is body recomposition. Now, take a breather because that was a lot. But actually I'm going to take a sip of water as you kind of digest everything I just said. But now, here lies the problem with all of that. Okay? Let's say you're like, all right, Mallory, you convinced me. Okay, I get it. I should maybe not care much about the scale if I feel like body recomposition is more my goal. But it is hard to build muscle and reduce your body fat percentage at the same time. So this is then again where a lot of people also get frustrated and stuck is they're like, all right, well, I understand that I need to focus on building muscle and I understand that I also want to lose body fat. But they think that like it's like, then what do okay, how do I do that? Right. And it's very hard to do both at the same time. So we kind of have to go into these phases of first intentionally focusing maybe on building muscle and then intentionally focusing on losing body fat. It's not two things that can just happen like at the same time simultaneously. Now, I will say it's not impossible to do both at the same time. Like, I'll even take it back that, like, I'm saying, I mean, it is hard to do it, but it will happen. Like, you will lose some body fat while you're building muscle. It's just hard to do either in a significant amount enough to where you're like really seeing the change, if that makes sense. Because let's think about it here. Building muscle, that's adding tissue to your body. Something's only going to come to life if there's tools to put it together, right? It's like you got to have the ingredients to the recipe for something to actually cook. And part of that is having enough calories and fuel to go towards building this new thing, right? Now, on the flip side of that, if you think about losing body fat, typically this is going to require being in a calorie deficit. And so if we're in a calorie deficit, we don't have those extra calories, like we're not going to be building muscle, right? So you can see how in a significant part, it's hard to do both at the same time. Now, the reason like where you can lose body fat but not necessarily lose weight is if we are like still eating at maintenance calories and we add some lean muscle, this is going to increase our metabolism. Like our body has the ability to, it's not like muscle burns fat. That is not a true thing. But what happens is it does increase our metabolism. And again, it goes into this basically idea of body recomposition where it starts to feel like, okay, well, I don't necessarily need this like extra body fat. And I'm getting the signal from strength training and et cetera to kind of have lean tissue in it instead. It's not like a trade-off of this muscle stress to like eat and burn this fat, but it's just part of that body recomposition. But in the big picture, if you really have these big composition goals where you truly want to like see a difference, it is better to focus on one thing at a time. So like on building muscle and then on losing body fat because of what we just described as far as like extra calories versus calorie deficit. Those are competing things. And so then the results are kind of competing. So when it comes to actually how to do this whole body recomp thing, we've kind of came to the conclusion that, all right, we need to separate them. We're going to have two different like seasons kind of our goals. I would highly recommend going through a bulk first. Well, before I get to that, let's kind of break down the phases of body composition. You're going to have what many people refer to as a bulk And then you're going to have what a lot of people refer to as a cut. You also may have heard of a reverse diet. I'm going to just mention that because it can get very confused with the bulk. And I think some people do use the terms interchangeably. They really aren't the same thing. The difference would be that a reverse is increasing your calories to get you from like a deficit back to your maintenance. But then once you go beyond your maintenance and you start to like go into a calorie surplus, this would be more of, oops, sorry for the noise there. That would be more of considered a bulk. Okay. So that would be the difference. A reverse is up to maintenance. And then anything you're continuing to add on after that would be a bulk. Now, I will say I don't love the word bulk, especially when talking to women, because I think there can be a lot of like fear around that word and a lot of association with like being bulky, right? And like this, oh, sorry for the noise, guys. I thought I muted it, but a lot of association for yeah, just this like physique that a lot of women don't think they want. If we could take the power away from that word, I mean, it really, that's what it is. But we can also just call it like a calorie surplus or a lean bulk, right? Like with the intention of staying lean, but adding on muscle. That's kind of what lean bulk means. And then a cut would be when you are intentionally like in a calorie deficit, trying to lose body fat. So the reason I would say highly recommend when your goal is body recomp to go into a bulk first is because most people who are striving for the goal of body recomp are missing lean muscle. Like that is the key missing piece. Again, you might be at like a healthy weight, but the reason you feel maybe a little bit more flabby, soft, skinny fat, whatever you want to call it, is because we are missing that muscle definition. So just going into a cut is not going to make you happy. You're just going to continue to be a smaller version of that soft, skinny fat, whatever, you feel aligns with you version that you already are. We have to have that muscle definition. So this can be where also a lot of people get tripped up because again, when they want to change their body, the thought of eating more is really, really scary. But again, understanding what you are trying to achieve here and why your like overall goal requires muscle mass, just going to a cut is not gonna, you're gonna be very disappointed with the outcome. So going into a lean bulk, what this would look like is typically adding like it's calorie surplus. So I'd say adding about 100 to 250 calories above your maintenance. This does not need to be crazy. Like 250 calories above your maintenance is like per day is plenty. I think a lot of people can also get maybe trapped into, and you'll see this with especially guys, they'll kind of go into like, when they're in a bulk, they're like, well, I'm trying to just eat more so like I can eat as much as I want. This is where you might get into a little bit of like a dirty bulk. And you do see people like gain more body fat than they would like. But this is, I think, where people are going over the top with it and allowing the idea of being in a bulk to be an excuse to just kind of eat like an asshole. But if you don't do this, if you rein this in and really have strategy behind it, all you really need is 100 to 250 calories surplus per day. You're not going to gain a lot of excess fat with this. The goal is to not really gain any excess fat at all. There might be a touch, but remember, it is only temporary as you are doing this for the long-term results of a better physique overall. And the goal would be to gain lean muscle. So the ingredients here to a really successful lean bulk are going to be number one, that calorie surplus, and number two, strength training. You absolutely have to have this be a piece of this as well, because not only do you need the extra fuel to go towards building lean muscle, you also have to have your body has to have a reason to put that fuel towards building lean muscle, and that reason is the signal that you send your body with strength training or weightlifting, right? And so that's such a big part of it. If you're just eating more and doing cardio, if you're just eating more and doing nothing, like you're not going to be happy with the results. There's no signal telling your body to build lean muscle. And then the other thing I'll add here is because oftentimes we'll get asked, okay, well, how long do I need to spend in this phase? It's going to depend. I know that's an annoying answer, but everything in health and fitness really comes down to it depends. But I'll give you some general guidelines. The first thing first, if you're somebody who's been dieting for your whole life and dieting a lot, and really never done anything but try to be in a calorie deficit, you really need to spend minimum as much time that you've dieted in a like lean bulk. So if you've been in a calorie surplus for a month, like 3 or 4 months, you probably need to be out of a calorie surplus for 3 to 4 months. But for what enough time to actually build lean muscle and see enough and add enough lean muscle to actually see a difference in your physique when you do cut, I would say minimum 8 to 12 weeks. Depending if you've never done this, you like it kind of depends if you've done this before or not. If you've never really done this, I definitely would spend like 12 plus weeks. And you're going to be also really, really happy with the results because it's the easiest to gain muscle when you are new. But you have to give your body enough time to actually like building lean muscle is very hard, takes a while. I'm trying to actually, let me Google it right now. I forget. How long does it take to build a pound of muscle? Um, Obviously, this is dependent person to person. But yeah, okay. So on average, people can gain a half pound to 2 pounds of muscle per month. But some say it can take several months to even gain a pound. And women, I promise you, it's going to take you're on the like the longer time of that. So you can see why you need a good chunk of time of these ingredients to build a physique that you're gonna be happy with. But once you spend time doing this, then the next part is going to be going into a cut, which again is the idea of being in a calorie deficit in order to lose body fat and be leaner. So, how this would look is typically a 250 to 500 calorie deficit per day from your maintenance calories. And then you still need to strength train. Okay. This is really, really important when it comes to body recomposition because if you're just in a calorie deficit and then you stop strength training, your body's not going to have a priority to hang on to that muscle that you just worked so hard to build. And then you might go back to kind of that like quote unquote skinny fat or just like, the physique that you're not happy with. So you still need to be sending the signal of strength training for your body to be like, okay, even though I don't have extra tools anymore and even I might even be like lower on tools because I'm in a deficit, I'm still getting the signal that I need to keep this muscle. So let me keep it and lose body fat instead with this deficit. Okay. So that's a big thing. And then as far as how long, I would say typically for most people, 8 to 16 weeks is going to be a good range for a cut. If you've been doing this multiple times, like you might be able to do more of a mini cut and be successful. So like 4 weeks. Obviously, the longer you do it, the like you can take it slower, right? So you don't have to be as dramatic with your calorie drops and surpluses, etc. But typically 8 to 16 weeks is a good range. So if you go through a lean bulk for 8 to 12 weeks and then you go through a cut for 8 to 16 weeks, guarantee you're going to be really, really happy with the body recomposition changes that you see. And then the last thing I'll say is this is not just like a one and done thing. I suppose it could be, right? You could do this and you could be like, okay, that was great. I'm happy with where I am. But oftentimes you'll, whether intentionally or even sometimes unintentionally, just given the seasons of life, like you'll go through these phases. And but what I mean by unintentionally is maybe through the holidays, like you're eating a little bit more, right? Like we are maybe not getting to the gym quite as much because we're busy with the holidays. And maybe it's a little bit of an unintentional bulk. And then the spring comes, you're walking outside more, the weather's better, there's not as much holiday things popping up. Maybe your calories just naturally drop a little bit more. Like you're unintentionally going through a cut. So it can definitely unintentionally and intentionally happen, but you can also very intentionally continue to go through these cycles to continue to improve your physique. Because in that first 8 to 12 weeks of that lean bulk, you're not going to build all the muscle that you're genetically capable of or that you might want to build, right? So, but you might not also want to do a lean bulk for a year. So it's okay to go through that, then cut, then maybe take a little bit of a break and show up maintenance. And then maybe the next time it makes sense in your life, be like, okay, I kind of want to like intentionally lean bulk again. So it's just kind of beginning to understand how these phases work and how it all gets you to the end goal of body recomposition. So that wraps up this week's episode of Fast Fit Facts. I hope this really helped you understand what body recomp is, how to do it. And if you guys have any questions, as always, you can always pop in the DMs. Happy to help, happy to answer. If you also ever want to work with a coach to go through these things, that's what we do. The link to apply for coaching is in the show notes. But otherwise, I hope you're just getting enough free advice to hopefully be successful with some of this yourself. So thanks for joining in, guys. I hope to talk to you next week, or I will talk to you next week. See you then. Bye.